Hey, what's up, world? Welcome to A Culture Conversation. I'm your host, Twingq. Before we get into our conversation, we got a unique conversation today about technology. We're going to be talking with the founder and executive director of the Athlete Tech Group, somebody that joined us earlier in our season 2, Randy Rozaay. What's up with you, bro?
Hanging, surviving. Hope you're well. How are you?
Good, man. It's a unique time as well, but it's good to kind of connect and, check in. It's been a minute. So what's up with you? How you been?
Been good, brother. Just taking things one day at a time. 2021 went by in like 2 months. Really don't know what happened to it. Came and went, and we're almost 2022 has started off ripping and roaring. A lot is moving, a lot is changing, and I think all of this acceleration makes us feel like, we've got to move at that speed as well. So for me, I think over the last little bit, I've been really focused on trying, because it's hard, it's work, but trying to make more Randy time, more Randy Crystal time, more Randy Jackson Crystal time, more Randy Jackson time, so that the core values and everything that we're working towards, we're still putting in time where it needs to be spent, which is at home. Because we could work and continue to work and create and hustle and go. It's in our blood, but there's moments that we may miss out on. So I'm trying to capture a lot more of those moments and bring those moments to the forefront when it's time to execute on the work front as well. So trying to build this work, I like to call it work-life harmony. It's no longer work-life balance, right? Like, you create your own schedule now. And I mean, I've always kind of created my own schedule, but now it's a little bit different just because now I'm like home. I don't have to move. So that's an adjustment. It's still an adjustment because as social beings, there's elements that we miss out on just being home. Or like, I remember doing this in your studio, for example. Like, that was like, I felt the energy and the conversation was dope. Now I'm looking at you on my computer screen. So I'm trying to capture the energy. I'm trying to, see your producer behind the camera. I'm trying to see Tristan with the camera before the Raptors, shooting, while we're chatting. But it's definitely a different time, and I'm just trying to more so focus on the more human elements of life as opposed to how fast everything is going, because there's nothing I could do about that speed of change except stay the course and continue to execute.
Yeah, and I think throughout your career, you kind of been on go for years upon years. So I guess my next question to you would be like, how has, I guess, fatherhood kind of changed the way now that you operate? You spoke a little bit about like it being an adjustment, but like, how has it kind of slowed you down from your day-to-day operations?
I wouldn't say it slowed me down. I think it's just forced me to have more focus, right? And someone like myself that, I founder of Athlete Tech Group. I'm also the co-founder of Atlas 365. I'm also the founder of Rozaay Management, which is still up and running and executing for clients. I'm also the founder of Return the Love Community Support, our nonprofit in which we, apply for grants and try to have different streams of impact, if you will. That's a lot to manage. And then you throw a baby, a child in there, a girlfriend in there, and a whole family in there. It takes a lot out of you. And, 2021 saw a lot of Randy trying to execute and do what's best for my family. But, it's really realigned my focus to do things that bring value to the family, right? Like, I've been turning down contracts that pay me well, but don't necessarily align with my vision. And as an entrepreneur, as a social entrepreneur, the projects I work on, I want them to be impactful. I want people to feel it. I want people to notice it, talk about it, want to replicate it, and do better than I did, right? Like, I get inspired by watching the work that Diddy does. Does that mean my work's gonna look like Diddy? Nah, not yet, but who knows, right? I'm a firm believer in putting in the work, and I've been putting in the work. And you know, at the start of this year, I really just took the time to really just look back, look at the last 9 years, you know, from 2012, 2013, just before AB got drafted, to where we are today is wild, absolutely wild. So Jackson has really put all of those experiences in a bottle for me. Not that I forget them or put them to the side. I shelf them and I find ways to pick them up and execute on them now, just because I can't be everywhere all the time. I can't be at Raptors games as much, or ensuring that, you know, we have a good dinner when guys like CJ or Dame come to town. I'm at the house, right? Like CJ was just here last week. He was like, "Yo, what's up?" I was like, "Bro, I'm at the house. I'm not going anywhere," you know. And he understood, because, you know, he just became a father himself. So those sacrifices, you know, it puts things into perspective for you when you are outside, to say, "Hey, I gotta execute this quick and get back home," because that's where I really want to spend my time. And I think the craziest thing that for me has been, you know, I would say since like 2010, 2011, I always put in my Twitter handle that I was going to be a stay-at-home dad, a future stay-at-home dad. And 2021, it happened. Like, stay at home because of COVID. And, you know, my son is here. So a lot of these things were written, if you will. And I see the place where Jackson kind of synthesizes and or puts it all into perspective to say this is important versus this is not. Hopefully that makes sense. But that's what kind of came to mind when you asked that question. Yeah, man, he's really put things into perspective for me.
Yeah. So now, like, what's a typical day at the HQ for you? Like, what's that schedule like, man? Because I know I hear these stories where, like, you're up in like 2-3 times in the night, you ain't even getting no sleep. So like what is that like, man? Like, what's your schedule like now?
I don't have one. I try to create. Nah.
Yeah.
I mean, he's about to be 8 months now, and he's at a point, like, you put him to bed around 11, 12, 1 sometimes. He'll sleep through the night. The odd time he'll decide that he wants to be up, and it's his call. Like, Jackson really runs our house. Like, when he's sleeping, everyone's quiet. When he's up, everyone get up. It's time to play, right? If he wants to be walked around in the house, he'll demand it. If he's hungry, if he wants some of your pineapple, like, he'll reach for it. Like, he's at a stage now where he's moving and grabbing things and reaching for things, and he hates to crawl, but anything within arm's reach, he's reaching for. He's trying to reach, and that in itself is work. But, you know, I wouldn't be able to do it without my partner. Crystal holds. You know, you grow up and you talk about, you know, they always say, what's the line? You know, behind every good man is a good woman. She's in front of me. She's in front of me, right? Like, she holds it down. If she's not okay, we're not okay, right? So I'm behind her in this relationship. So, but back to the schedule question, Jackson will wake up anywhere between 6 to 9 in the morning. I try to get up around 7:30, get back into stretching, because a lot of that fell off. had no time. Like I'm probably in worse shape than I was pre-COVID because it's been work in Jackson. So been trying to pick those things back up and put them back into rotation because it's so necessary, man. Self-care, we all talk about it, but you've actually got to make time for it and put it in your calendar and see it and visualize and plan ahead. It doesn't just happen. Just like anything else, you don't just becoming a millionaire, right? There's processes, there's flows, there's things that need to happen. So trying to really pick that back up. But between 7 and 9 is kind of my time, and 9 to 11, Crystal will take some time to do some yoga, workout. Jackson and I will go have breakfast, or we'll go hoop, or we'll go read, or we'll stretch a little bit, or we'll do something. We engage like that in the morning. And then 12 to 6, work. Get on the phone, get on the computer, get on with my team, check up on Slack, check up on email, work on ongoing projects. It's really, really a lot. And, we've been doing a lot of work, and I'm really excited to share some of this work with the world over the next little bit. So, no 2 days are ever the same. 2021, I would start my workday, as I shared, at 12, and sometimes come home at 10, just because you were on calls all day, and then you need time to unpack what was from all those calls, and what's the strategy and what's the roadmap that we're going to try to get to the goal line. That takes time. So now I'm trying to be home by 6, trying to be home by 7. I do leave home and head to my office, just so I can kind of get those moments of clarity. But trying to be home for 6 or 7, in bed, back home and engage with Jackson. Hopefully he's up, or if he's asleep, me and Crystal will get into something. But it's really, you've really got to, like, we create our schedule. Like, that's where we are. With Jackson, we still need to be somewhat flexible. And that flexibility is good, but dangerous. Very, very dangerous. And this is where the discipline needs to kick in. But we're working on it.
Yeah, that's a process, man. So I know that you mentioned a little bit about some of the projects and the works that you've been doing. Recently, we're aware that you've launched the Athlete Women Empowered program, which is a mentorship program for BIPOC women athletes, which is an amazing initiative. So just kind of talk a little bit about that, and what was your plan, or what were you trying to accomplish with that program?
For sure. I want to say, after hosting the Athlete Tech Summit in 2019, someone had sent me this anti-racism action plan grant, a grant that Canada was looking for nonprofits to build equitable programs and build gaps, or bridges and gaps, to employment, social participation, justice, racism. That was 2019. I applied 2019. Got a bunch of letters of support. For those that are looking into the grant world, it's a relationship game, the same way that the for-profit world is. Like, you got to get letters of support. You got to get organizations to say, hey, we support these people. On top of putting together a really good program that could be measurable, that could have some sort of impact, that addresses a problem, that's backed by data, that's going to collect data, that's going to help inform how future organizations build their DE&I strategies. Like, that's ultimately what the government's looking for help is, hey, community, help us help you. And the government understands the theory of proximity, which is those closest to the problem have the answer. The problem that our community, the problem that our community is having is we're not equipped on how to apply for these grants. right? We're not equipped to how to, build partnership with 4 or 5 different organizations to apply for a grant that's more than 2,500 or 5K or 10K. Like, it's very hard to make impact with that, right? So I put my foot in the ground and said, I want to do something different. 2019 was also the same year. 2019 for me was a very, very busy year. That's why 2020 I was so heartbroken. 2019, we did the first ever Innovate Her, where we partnered with Shopify, and we brought together
Yeah.
a room full of women leaders, entrepreneurs, corporates, folks from the city. We had Tweed, a cannabis company in there, Johnny Walker, a bunch of brands coming together and looking to empower and help women grow their entrepreneurial side while looking at the future of technology back in 2019, the Tech Summit, and we had the Do Your Part Celebrity Game. So running off of the Innovate Her event, I had the mind of how do we grow this Innovate Her event into something bigger? Because what I saw that day at Shopify was so powerful. So that's what I applied for back in 2019. So this program that we're now seeing, I applied back in 2019. Coming into 2020, COVID hit. They put all applications on hold, and I didn't hear from them all of 2020. Going into 2021, I think they had reached out, I want to say March 2021, and said, Randy, we really like this application. Can we talk? So sat down, got on a call, and they said, we really like it, but we don't understand it. Help us understand what you're going to execute. And in March last year, I really didn't know, because the world was different, right? I had no idea of how I was going to execute a career development and mentorship program for BIPOC women athletes. So they said, all right, take some time and see if you can get back to us by October of last year. I said, all right, cool. That was March. April, I started building Training Ground. And as we were building Training Ground, I said, what if we ran this mentorship program through this app that we're developing? And as we built it, and I'll say this, building apps is a lot of work. You don't need to be technical. There's a lot of no-code apps and things out there. I don't have a technical background. If I know nothing about zeros and ones, but it's the understanding your user. When you build something for someone, how much about that person do you know? And how much people that are like that person, how many of them have that same problem? So when we built Training Ground, we looked at all of the problems that athletes have, whether you're in high school, college, or professional. At all 3 levels, you do not have time in your mind. You're busy. At the high school level, you're in the gym or you're at school. You're in the gym or you're at school, if you're playing at an elite level or up, right? At the college level, same thing. You're in class, gym, at school, maybe party. At college, your social life actually starts to begin at the college level.
Yeah.
Because at the high school level, you don't really have time to go to the movies or hang out. You're in a gym or you're on a bus traveling somewhere to go see how good are you. Like, that's the thing about sports. You got to show up every day. So looking at problems at each level, looking at realizing that athletes, they don't have time. They're constantly on the go. Looking at short attention spans and how to build things that feel sticky, right? You want to build a product that's sticky. And when we built Training Ground, we really wanted to help athletes, but we realized athletes, as much as they are looking for help, they still won't do the work.
Common problem.
I don't need this. I'm good. I'm going D1. Oh no, my uncle knows a coach and he's gonna get me into the JUCO and I'm gonna play 2 years in the. Okay. And in seeing that, building Training Ground, such a dynamic product. Like, what's great about Training Ground, I take a couple of seconds, is this is the end user, who's the athlete. Right? You put the athlete here, but there's so many people around the athlete that could help administer Training Ground to some of these young athletes. You got coaches, parents, trainers, student athlete development leads, program managers, basketball advancement managers, and sport advancement managers, student advisory, wellness officers. There's a lot of support around athletes at different levels, right? And Training Ground ultimately becomes a tool to provide that support to athletes through these folks, if you will. So in trying to build a product that helps people in so many different ways, we had to build a very dynamic product. That's why we built Training Ground and we launched it, because technically anyone could use it. The content in there is for any and everyone, right? My target market just happens to be athletes, because that just happens to be the people that I know the best. Those are the people I've worked with for the last 8 or 9 years. So going back to the original question, as I built Training Ground, I said, well, if we could build it and run it through this program, I wonder, will the government okay it? So finished building Training Ground, took it to the government, and I said, hey, look, I want to run this program through this app that I built. Are you guys still interested? And they said, absolutely. This is beautiful. We've never seen anything like this. We're behind you. Let's do it. And off we went. We went to the network. We went and pulled in mentors from the Seattle Storm, the New York Knicks, Sacramento Kings, the Raptors, EY, RBC, Canadian Tire, Nike, Adidas, Lululemon. Why? Because I know kids gravitate to these brands. We know where they are. So if we're going to find mentors, let's go pull them from the places that they know, the places that they already spend their money, they already engage with, they already want to spend their money. Well, how about you look at these places to possibly build your career, build your network, build confidence, because Keisha from Nike Global is jumping on a Zoom with you to talk about how to speak up in rooms where there's not a lot of women, right? Like, those are the experiences we want to build through this AWE program. So the program being living on Training Ground as a platform is going to change a lot of mentorship programs. And I'm excited to see, I'm excited to work with community organizers and folks that work with athletes to help give them a more holistic development experience. And what I mean by that is, people come to sports to build life skills, but it's not enough, right? The life skills sports teach you are around, hard work, teamwork, dealing with constructive criticism, maybe listening, collaboration, a lot of skills that people pay thousands and thousands of dollars when they're 24, 25, 30 and try to find to build. Kids are building them at 14, 15. But when sport is gone, the problem is they don't know how to transfer those skills. And that's where Training Ground comes in. It helps to capture and identify those skills and help you transfer them into the next phase of your life, because we know the numbers, Twin. We know how hard it is to get there. I tried. I know you tried. I tried. I woke up. They said, you wanna go D1, you gotta wake up every morning and get to I did it. I didn't make it. What happened? Right? But how can I take that experience, that dedication, that love, that passion, and find other ways to share it with the world? And that's what we've built into Training Ground. It's literally a tool to help folks get ready for the next phases of their life, right? We're all on this lifelong learning journey. So I probably forgot the question you had asked, but yeah, I think that would be the answer I got.
Yeah, no, and you kind of tapped in around different surrounding topics, and the one common theme that I found there was adoption, right? And especially as athletes, right? You're usually in environments where it's solely focused on performance, so you might not have the capacity, or you might not be exposed to this information and resources, right? So just having the complexity of your app kind of provide that for the next generations of athletes is huge. Also, in addition to that, we talk about uplifting our own, our group, right? When we talk about like the percentage of Black Canadians and African Americans, collectively not really having good jobs, access to resources, especially in the tech space now. Do you feel the importance of developing that as a tool to create change in the Black community?
Absolutely. This is why we do what we do. As much as we look at athletes as having these special skills and special tools, if you will, they experience delayed development, right? Their development gets delayed because they're always in a gym. They don't get to leverage diversity of thought or open up their minds in ways because they're in a gym, on a plane, or on a bus, in a car. How do we turn those experiences into learning experiences? How do we turn those experiences into development experiences? Because we know the window is this small to get to whatever level you're trying to get to. From high school to college, only 7% of kids go on to actually play college sports, and less than 2% get a scholarship. For the college kids going pro, less than 1% go on and play pro. And that window just continues to get smaller and smaller. And even if you do make it pro, the average career is only about 4 years now. So we're seeing a lot of athletes fall out of sports at 25 with no life skills whatsoever. And now you throw in technology. Now you throw in a lot of Black athletes or Black folks that don't get access to equitable education or don't get the opportunity to pick up on skills. Do you understand what that's going to do for our world? Like, our world could be very divided, right? And why we need to get more Black people in tech, there's so many reasons. And tech isn't always coding, right? A lot of it could be UI and UX. It could be user experience, right? It could be user journey mapping. A lot of tech is just sitting down and thinking through ways of getting things done in the most efficient way possible. And seeing that, I think our community misses out on trends we create. We create trends. We own trends. We refurbish trends. We bring back old ones and make them better. But we don't know how to capitalize on it because we don't think with an equitable mind, right? When you don't think from an ownership perspective, you're not going to think to capture something and say, I own this, because at some point, someone might want to give me a lot of money for this. A lot of us think for the now. And I think this is what excites so much people about crypto and Bitcoin, is the market creates the ownership, right? This decentralized network creates the ownership. There's transparency, there's trust. Like, the world is in an influx. A lot of people aren't putting their money into banks. A lot of people are quitting their jobs. A lot of people are not going back to work because the government's giving paychecks, or they started making money in crypto and they're good. So the world is changing, and when innovation happens, and happens this rapidly, there's going to be a huge gap for education. There's going to be a huge gap for access to knowledge. As much as we see the metaverse, Some of us might go there and hang out. Some of us. But it's not going to be all of our norms. But when things like that happen at the top, what does that mean for the rest of us as things kind of make its way down and normalize in various forms, right? And I think that the best thing that we could do as a people is educate. So this is why we host Tech Summit Black. This is why we host the AWE program. This is why we host the Rising Star. It's bringing education and awareness, right? It's like, I'm looking at our community from a survival standpoint, where if you're not inspired right now to do something you've never done before, with all of this innovation and disruption that's happening in the world, how do you expect to close the income gap? The average Black individual, I believe, in Canada makes like $36,000 a year. Average. But the average entry-level job in tech is like 58, 60K per year. Entry level. I'm talking like take a 6-month course and start at 60.
Yeah, like, exactly.
There's so much hunger for talent, right? And the talent that is wanted and needed for these jobs, there's skills. A lot of, if you go and Google the top skills needed for the next 5 years, a couple of things you'll see things like empathy and awareness and leadership. Do you know why that happens? It's because we're in this digital world and virtual reality and metaverses and that those that have more human elements in their skill set will be more valuable as we move forward. So, as a people, I encourage everybody to find a way to learn, because we're all going to need to upskill, all of us. And if you don't, I don't wish anything bad on anybody, but it's gonna be tough, because the government don't know what's going on right now. Government has lost control.
Facts.
And not that we're in riot mode or any thing like that, but we're in a day and age where you've got a chance to do something new, do something different, because this world is still being formed. It's still being formulated. How do you participate in a new way? How do you build, TGQ into a media empire? Like, now's the time. There's a lot of different technology. So for you to continue to drive your brand, your programming, leveraging tech allows you to keep going, right? So I think, for our community, we're going to need a lot more content creators, a lot more website developers. Yes, we're going to need coders, of course, but we need people to understand design thinking. We need people to understand the ways of the world from different perspectives, because diversity of thought is what's going to keep us alive. There's one thing that I'll reference, is artificial intelligence. So we know AI is things that do things for us that we don't have to think about sometimes, right? It automates it and makes things a little bit easier for us. When AI is built by white men, AI is developed to only understand what white men see in the world. Does that make sense? So
absolutely.
If there's no diversity of thought in the room when algorithms are being built, AI can sometimes miss people. It might not see a Black person. It wasn't developed in the code, right? So when we hear about social justice, well, they say AI has a chance to fix it, but it also has a chance to make it worse. It's true. If there's not more people that look like you and I in the room to help develop these algorithms, Jackson might turn 16 and might get pulled over because an algorithm didn't see him properly. And that's a future I've got to deal with, I've got to face, right? So this adoption that's happening, it's crazy, and I almost wish people would take it a little bit more serious and really just figure out where you want to learn. I built Training Ground because I think when I built it, I thought, I'm like, you know what, Twin would like this, and I think he would like this, and he might like this, right? Do you come to Training Ground and learn every day? Maybe not. Cool. But you find different ways to learn and develop, and it's important to and continue to, because this adoption is moving quickly. I'll even reference Space Jam. I just watched it last night with Jackson for the first time with LeBron. LeBron was facing who? AI.
Yeah.
That is foresight. They're like, this, like, and what AI could do and how it changed this, and it's where the world is going. So how do we educate ourselves and become aware of all of these things around us? It's a lot, the internet is overly saturated with information. Where do you start is the question. So that almost sounds like a Training Ground ad, but yeah, I'll just throw Training Ground in there real quick.
Yeah, well, man, you said a lot of interesting points. You know what I mean? No, hey, I'm here for it, but one thing that I wanted to kind of take forward is the point that you were talking about with the AI and not having diversity of thought, right? So when you think about these major corporations and the people that sit on these boards and stuff like that, they usually come from the same place. They have the same perspective, right? So that's why it's really important to get more color in the room, more representation, so you can have more of a diverse way to have an approach, right? So we can eliminate some of the major problems in our communities, you know what I mean? Especially now with, a lot of these corporations trying to do these DEI, programs and stuff like that, right? But, you always know that whenever there's a crisis, they just try to do damage control, right?
Absolutely. And it takes people like you and I, Twin, to walk into some of these rooms to say, no, you should put 100K into this program because this is going to have impact. I don't want the 5K, the 10K. It's not going to do much. We need equitable support. We need these orgs to come to the table and actually come to the table, because BLM happened in 2020. I'm still waiting for some of these checks. What's up? Right? But we've got to go now. Like, their backs are kind of against the wall, but no one's really applying pressure. Now's the time to apply that pressure, because it's out there. You companies can't run from it, right? Like, inclusive hiring needs to be a mandate. You need to hire more people of color. We live in Toronto. Majority of Toronto, 50%, is immigrant. We all don't look alike, right? So the other piece that these companies also need to see, and I'll speak at it from the business side, is when you leverage diversity of thought, you actually increase your margins. Right? Imagine, let's take MLSE, for example. Imagine MLSE didn't invest into the community. Who buys all the tickets to the games? Who buys the subscriptions? Who buys the jerseys? Who comes to the camps? Who comes to this? Who comes to that? You've got to engage and speak with your community and build pathways for your community to engage with you. So, for an organization like MLSE, it makes sense for them to engage with the people that engage with them, which is their community, right? So, I know they have they brought in some amazing leaders on the DE&I side that are going to be bringing in some great change, right? So I think it's always important when we hear these DE&I words, we don't, and this is for everyone, we don't make it seem as if you're doing us a favor. because it's not a favor. You're doing what's right, and what's right ultimately helps you make more money if you're open to diversity of thought, right? So D&I, everyone wins when you invest in it. The problem is people aren't investing in it. And, you know, I applaud and push people like you and Twingq that are pushing the narrative, pushing the culture. Tristan Forbes shooting with the Raptors. I haven't seen too many photographers with the Raptors. Shout out to my brother. You know, like little things like that. Like you're breaking barriers. You're opening doors that growing up, I couldn't say I knew someone that worked at the Raptors, right? And now it's a thing. And I think the MLSE as an organization has realized it and has leveraged it to be such an amazing organization within sports and entertainment across North America. I think what they do as an org is it's beautiful. It's beautiful because it seems like they pay attention to inclusion, right? They pay attention to inclusion. I don't know their policies, but it seems like they pay attention, and it shows. I'm sure. I'd love to see that balance sheet to see what it looks like.
Facts. Especially Masai too. I think he has a lot to do with that. Like, I mean,
absolutely.
You know, just having that that elevated presence. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely. So what's your take on the future of, or the digital transformation of like our world? Like, we talked a little bit about like the Web3, NFTs, the metaverse, the elimination of like centralized banks. Like, what do you think the future of the tech landscape is going to look like? Let's say within the next 18 to 24 months, because I don't want to say 5 years.
Yeah, for sure. I think what we're going to see is a couple of things. One, people are going to get away from 9 to 5s and maybe work 2 or 3 jobs where they do 10, 15 hours a week per job. I see that kind of employee, contractor, vendor model being more of a thing. I see a lot more communities being built and community platforms being built, right? So Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, all of these Spotify, even Apple Music, all of these platforms have so much data and so much people that you don't know if you could trust what you see on some of these platforms, right? So what we're seeing is a lot of people are creating their own communities in other platforms. Discord channels have gone up significantly, and there's a lot of community-based platforms to bring people together. And I think technology is going to accelerate that, right? When you have more communities, you have more entrepreneurs that are working 3 jobs at 10 hours a week per job, or whatever, you know, your pay cycle looks like. We're going to see like NFT service providers, people that are helping people build NFTs and NFT museums. And, you know, as market adoption happens, services become, right? People need help. People need help to onboard onto Web3. What does that mean? What does that actually mean? It's getting a wallet. That's what onboarding to Web3 is you get a digital wallet, you know what it is, you know what it does, and you can use it. You don't have to use it, but you can use it. So, you know, this and all of everything that I'm talking about all still comes from a place of education. Like, if you're not aware, you're going to miss everything, right? So, not to light a fire under anybody or, you know, tell hey, you got to figure X, Y, and Z out now. No, that's not it. It's more of, what do you want in your life? What are things that are important to you? What are things that you've been wanting to try that you haven't tried before that you could maybe try now from a business entrepreneurship perspective? And how can you get there? And how can technology help you get there? So those are the three buckets I would speak to is the ability to build community, yeah, the ability to build community. I forgot my other 2 points because I talk a lot, but yeah, yeah. We'll play it
Yeah,
back
nah, you
again.
absolutely. But before we head out, man, I just want to close on that last point. About the education and the information, right? And everybody might not understand kind of where to start. You know what I mean? Because, like I said, it might be a lot. The world is changing as we speak. We talked about the pandemic. Forced us to adopt 3 years and 3 months, pretty much. So with that being said, there's a lot of things that you got to come up to speed or catch with. So, it's very important that you kind of, broke it down in layman terms, like, figuring out what you want, where do you want to go, and helping, technology bring you to the destination. So before we leave, bro, just like always, man, I always say how important these conversations are, but also how important people like you in the industry are to our culture, you know what I mean? And continue to set great examples and, redefine the new standard for, Black professionals, community leaders, entrepreneurs of tomorrow, you know what I mean? So just let the people know where they can kind of tap in with you and follow up on your new ventures and, your progress going forward.
For sure. Instagram, just Randy Rozaay, double A on the Rozaay. Athlete Tech Group, that's our other Instagram. Trainingground.app is our other Instagram. Converta.eth. And shout out to Akeem, my co-founder and CEO of Converta. He recently just launched an NFT for the white paper of Converta. So an opportunity for people to invest in science, an opportunity for people to invest in decentralized science. So what that means is Akeem is taking the supply chain of taking a hemp seed from a seed into the soil, into a plant into Converta, this ingredient, that entire process is and will be on like the blockchain. So giving people opportunity to own that white paper, that white paper could get sold for some money later on. So wanted to give Akeem that shout out really quickly. So yeah, that was converta.eth. And yeah, those are the main platforms, if you will. I'm available on either or if anybody ever wants to connect. I've been spending a lot of time mentoring and I'll continue to mentor, but one thing is as time goes on, you begin to try to capture more and more of it, so I encourage everybody to download Training Ground. Seriously. Seriously, the stuff that we have coming is going to be a fun 2022, and I if Training Ground is that place for people to learn and grow and develop, I'm happy. I feel like I've done my part, because I understand that there's a lot of misinformation out there, and we're all going to need to upskill anyway. So you can find what works for you, or you can go to where that people like Randy will be engaging with you, because I worked with our network to provide the content, right? We worked with Trey Richards to do a masterclass on personal branding. Why? Because Trey has done it for like almost the last 10 years, and he's done it at such a high level and has been able to execute that. To me, he's an expert in branding. He's an expert in marketing and partnerships. Today's experts are what I like to call edu-creators, right? Edu-creators are educated content creators. So, helping the next generation learn these skills to be part of this digital transformation is going to be huge. So I thank, people like Trey. I thank you. I thank those that are trying to add bricks to this bridge that we're trying to gap. Every brick counts. And as some of you kids, and youth and adults, come on this bridge and walk across, please put down another bridge for someone else to get across, because a lot of things that we're fighting are well before our time that we can't necessarily control, but we can inform and help put things into place. Like the changes that I'm trying to solve, I might not be around to see them come full 360, but if there's others that align with the vision and the values that we've set forth, then I'm sure that we'll hit those goals at some point, right? Maybe Jackson takes it on and wants to continue to go back to Ghana and donate books and shoes. Like, I don't know. I don't know where things are. All I know is I get up, I put on my hard hat, I go to work, I come home, go to sleep, try to do it again the next day. So I encourage everybody to just find ways to grow, develop, take care of yourself, find time, not even find time, make time for yourself, because when you try to find something, we're all adults. We can make the time to take care of ourselves, because it's important. The worst thing you could ever do is burn out, because it's real. It happens, and we need to find ways to support ourselves and support each other. So, brother, I want to thank you so much for having me today. I hope when you edit this, it all makes sense, because in my mind it makes sense, but I don't know if it's going to come through and make sense. If you heard this today and you feel me and you understand, reach out. Let's rap. Let's chat. Right? These are problems that I know I'm not the only one that's dealing with them. I know a lot of us are dealing with them, but don't want to talk about it or don't know how to talk about it. Let's talk about it.
For sure. Absolutely, bro. Well, with that being said, we'll check out here from the virtual HQ. Once again, my brother Rozaay, Randy, thank you for coming on and blessing the people with unlimited worth of gems, man. Next time we need Jackson, though. You gotta get him on here for a special guest appearance.
You gotta see. The thing is, you gotta pay Jackson, though. Jackson's expensive. Yeah.
All right, yo. I'm gonna talk to your people. You people get to my people.
I'll send you his wallet. It's Jackson Osei .wallet. So you want to throw some coins in there? Throw some coins, and then I'll bring him on screen.
All right, my boy. Good. You be well. Blessings to your family, bro, and we'll chop it up soon, bro.
Appreciate it, brother. We'll talk soon, man. Take care.
All right. Peace, bro.